I got to fade this. This is not a good team. Are they going to score at all? I'm not even confident they're going to score at all. You get a 12.5 projection from them. Yeah, they'll probably score, but they're not going to score early. They rank 29th when it comes to first quarter points. They suffer penalties almost more than anybody. 30th when it comes to first downs per game. 31st when it comes to third down conversions. How do they move the ball? They would have to be a fluke, lucky play, and if that's what you're counting on, the payout is just not good enough. Fade.
Okay, Reed. Pierce doesn't really know if they're going to score at all, but if they do, can they be the first team to score?
Out of all of these that we've talked about, right, with the Patriots and Washington and some other teams, this one actually I like the most. And the reason being, and I get what Pierce is saying, that Washington might not be able to score, but all we need is a field goal. And we might not even need a fluky play. We might just need a control of the clock, control of the possession. If they can hold Minnesota to not score if Minnesota gets the ball on that first series or the first quarter, I think when the time of possession, with Washington ranking 11th in time of possession in the first quarter, I actually kind of like this. At 260, I don't mind it. It's not a huge number, but out of all the ones that we've talked about, I think this one specifically has the best chance so far.
What do you think here, Jeffrey? You like these odds?
I think Pierce is a wimp like usual. I mean, you just have to score once, Pierce, so they don't have to win the game by 30 or anything. It's plus 260. Yeah, I'll take some of that. I mean, look, it's a nice little revenge spot for Case Keenum, who will probably put together one good drive at some point in this game. Who knows? It might come at the first. I mean, it's something that I would never bet on a team like a big favorite in this spot with the odds. So if you are going to take a shot on it, look, at least Washington isn't Miami in the fact that they have a couple capable NFL players. Terry McLaurin there, obviously one big play could put them into field goal position or something like that. I also kind of like the idea that Minnesota, if they win the toss, is probably going to defer anyways. So, I kind of like these odds for it. I mean, Washington isn't quite as bad as Miami. They're close, but they're not quite as bad.
Maddie, plus 260 for Washington to score first.
Yeah, no, I'm all set on that. They're over the past 4 games, they're averaging less than 7 points. On the year, they're averaging 1.2 points per drive, which is only better than the Jets, who had, Falk and Simeon at some point this year, and the Dolphins. So yeah, I guess it's fine if you want something to root for in the first 10 minutes, but it's not something that I'm going to be playing.
Like, Matt, you're not going to be watching this game, obviously, for like only in that first 10 minutes, right? You're probably going to turn it off and go somewhere else. So why not in the first 10 minutes make a bet?
Yeah, come on, dude. What's your problem, man?
I mean, I'm a Knicks fan, so I don't have much else to watch tonight. So.
Yeah, that's true. But guys, no Adam Thielen, so we could see a lot of Stephon Diggs. His receiving yard total is projected at 89.5. Chase or fade, he's going to go over that mark, Reed.
Yeah, I'm going to chase this. At first glance, I actually didn't like it too much, just because I think when you look at the style in which Minnesota wants to probably play, which is hand the ball off a ton to Dalvin Cook, really control the clock, that's Zimmer's game plan. But over the last 3 or so weeks, right, he's really switched that up, used play action quite a bit. And if you look at Stephon Diggs on the slate and just across just this week, he has the most yards per route run at 3.14. Out of all the receivers. Quentin Dunbar is not necessarily a terrible cornerback, but he's not that good. He's given up some big games to really good wide receivers. And Stephon Diggs, now with Adam Thielen out, gets that true number 1 designation. And we know how crisp his route running is, so I'll take this over.
Jeff, you want to chase the over here?
Yeah, I guess I kind of do. I mean, I'm not really scared of the matchup at all, and Steph Diggs is basically he's not really leading the league in yards per reception, but he kind of is, because if you look at the players in front of him, they're not really players who play every down. So he's got 18.2 yards per reception. Reed mentioned the other stat there. He's just a big play receiver, and now he's going to be getting like number 1 volume, true number 1 volume, possibly push for 10 targets tonight. The only thing that really scares me here is if Minnesota jumps out to a lead, gets a defensive touchdown, and then he sees 7 targets or something. But he could even do it on that. So, I would definitely lean the over here if I'm choosing.
Matt, you going to agree with these guys, lean towards the over?
Yeah, I'll definitely chase this. He's been over that mark in 3 of the last 4 games. And the game that he didn't, he missed half the week because he was throwing a hissy fit. So after all of this, with no Thielen, he'll see 7 to 10 targets. So I'm more than happy to chase this.
Pierce, 4 for 4 here?
Yeah, I'll chase, but I do want to argue with Quentin Dunbar not being a good cornerback. I would say he's more on the end of good cornerback than bad cornerback. And if you look at matchups against the Redskins, number one receivers haven't really had big games. It's been mainly slot receivers. I don't know if he's in the best spot to have a huge game. I'm sure he'll get over this number based on his recent performance, but this is not really a place that I would want to target on a full slate.
Guys, Michael Bennett's been traded to the Cowboys.
Ooh.
That's interesting. Patriots shipping him off to the Cowboys for a 7th-round pick. I believe that can
Go in the 6th.
right? 7th-round pick this year.
That can
be
go
a
in the 6th
6th-round
in
pick.
2021.
Great.
Yeah.
Good. I'm sure we just screwed that up. Anyway, in his return to Minnesota, Casey Keenum has passing yard total projected at 224.5, while Kirk Cousins, facing his former team, sits at 239.5. Good old narrative street, people. Chase or fade. Keenum ends the night with the most passing yards, Geoff.
Oh, man, I'm going to chase this. I really do think like this is kind of a spot where you could see both these passing offenses get off. And again, you look at both teams. I mean, Adrian Peterson is basically playing on one leg. I don't think Washington's going to be able to run the ball anyways. They're going to be the ones passing late into this game most likely. So even if Kirk Cousins has a more efficient game, he could definitely end the game with less passing yards. I like it. I mean, Minnesota, for all their good play of late, I mean, they've allowed a lot of yards passing. I mean, 300 plus yards to opponents' QBs in the last 2 games. It's where you kind of want to attack them because you're not going to get much on the ground anyway. So I kind of chase this, to be honest.
All right, I'm taking Adrian Peterson out of my Showdown lineup right now. Matt, what do you think about this one? Who ends up with more passing yards?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cousins here. Even with the projected game script, I don't know. Like Keenum, his last 3 games altogether, he's thrown for 260 yards. So this would be a pretty tall task for him at the moment. Cousins, on the other hand, he's averaging over 325 passing yards over the past 3 weeks. And yeah, they would much prefer, both of these teams really would much prefer to run the ball. But I would never put money on Case Keenum really doing much of anything. So I think I'm going to fade this one.
Pierce, talk to me.
Yeah, I think Cousins is the guy to go with here. He's just incredibly hot, over 300 yards passing and a 130 quarterback rating over the last 3 games. It's a historic number. No one's done that. I would rather take the quarterback that's playing well versus the quarterback who's not playing well. But the real story here is if we're going to play narrative street, who's more fired up about this revenge than Kirk Cousins? This dude is a crazy, fired up, throwing fits kind of guy. You know he's going to try to throw for 300 yards. I don't care what the script is. He's going to audible on the line of scrimmage with a 20-point lead just so that he gets his numbers tonight.
Reed, you like that?
You like that?
You like that?
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, I'm with these guys. I think Cousins is going to do it. And Keenum, to what Matt was saying, not that good at accumulating a lot of yards. Like we've seen him do it against teams like Chicago and the Eagles, but we know those secondaries and that Chicago defense maybe not as good as we initially thought. And so when you get a good secondary back there, which, again, Minnesota is kind of middle of the pack there in DVOA. They're 14th in pass DVOA. I think that Case Keenum is not necessarily going to get things going. So, yeah, I'm with these guys. I'm going to fade Keenum gets more yards than Cousins.
All right, we talked about him a little bit earlier. Dalvin Cook has had a monster year for Minnesota, and his rushing attempts total is set at 18.5. So chase or fade, he goes under this total, Maddie.
I mean, honestly, kudos to whoever set this line because I was struggling with this for a little bit. I think that this is just about perfect. He's been over that in 4 of the 7 games. It is a big number, even with him being such a big favorite at home. I don't know, like they seem like they want to kind of get Madison involved a little bit more. Through the first 5 weeks or so, he was only on the field for about 20% of the snaps, and it's been getting up closer to 30. So if this game gets out of hand, I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see quite so much Dalvin down the stretch. So I think I'm going to fade this one.
Pierce, you want to fade it?
I think he's going to go over. And so the worry is he going to get the carries in the fourth quarter? Of course he's going to get the carries in the first and second and third quarter of this game. But when it blows out or if it blows out, is he going to get the carries? And you look at the Giants game, they had a 2-touchdown lead, and he still got 7 carries in the fourth quarter. If he can get 7 carries in the fourth quarter tonight, then he probably will inch over that number. He's averaging 19, so like was already mentioned, it's pretty close. But if Minnesota wants to win the game, you're going to do it easily with Cook, so feed him the ball. I say he goes over that number.
All right, Pierce is chasing. Reed, where are you going with this?
Yeah, I'll be with Pierce here. Washington gives about 30 rush attempts per game. And if you kind of break that down, right, like Matt mentioned, 18 to 19 is probably going to go to Dalvin Cook. And I think to what Pierce was saying, like if he's doing this and they want to keep him going, keep him fresh, even though he only averages about 65 to 68% of the snaps, he's still a guy that you're going to essentially use in that backfield. I have him right around 19. And look, C.J. Ham, right? C.J. Ham could potentially get those fourth quarter totes, but at the same time, this is Dalvin Cook. They're going to want to win the game on his back. So yeah, I'm going to say over just by one touch.
Geoff, you want to go over?
I'm going to choose under. Look, it's a short week. I really do feel like they'll probably try and get Madison a little bit more work here just because, again, short week, you don't want to burn out your star running back, and they're already leaning towards like a 70-30, 65-35 split. I do think this number is right up, perfect set. I mean, Cook really hasn't cracked 20 carries much this year, but if he does get a little bit more work, he should hit 18 or 19. So I would still lean under. I just feel like Madison is a part of the workload right now. There's a good chance on a short week he'll get a couple more carries. So I don't really like the over here.
All righty. We're going to wrap up the show with you four and your showdown picks, so please have them ready. Until then, what to do with tonight's NHL slate after Pat Mayo dishes on Week 8 wide receivers?
After that, actually, even looking at it right now, like, would you play T.Y. or would you play Allen Robinson?
Allen Robinson, like, it was so, for a while there, it was like, hey, we're right. It's Allen Robinson. It's a terrible matchup. Nothing's going to matter. But when you get 16 targets in that game, even if half of them are off target, the other half are going to be on target, even if Trubisky looks like that. If he's going to get hit that much every single week with targets, I lean Allen Robinson slightly, but it's not, I don't feel good about it. That's the problem.
Well, Chris Harris is already talking about not being traded and locking down and shadowing T.Y. this week, so that's not great. It's not like I'm not saying to bench T.Y., but as an overall like upside option, I don't love it. It's a lot like Allen Robinson last week.
Yeah, it certainly is. But Chris Harris, man, that's is he serious? Is he really going to shadow T.Y. Hilton? Here's the thing with I got to think T.Y. Hilton gets away from him at least a few plays, and then similar to Robbie Anderson, but it's T.Y. Hilton, and go back to the quarterback. Jacoby Brissett's playing like Russell Wilson efficiency level. Like the touchdowns for how much he's throwing has been very good, including the completion percentage. So I would still lean T.Y. Hilton because I don't think Chris Harris is going to be on him 100% of the snaps. But yeah, I definitely, it's a concern if you hear Chris Harris say that.
So 21st in the rankings, I got Juju. We expect Mason Rudolph back this week, right?
We do. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't know either. I have it ranked as if Mason Rudolph is playing quarterback for the Steelers.
I mean, the thing is Mason Rudolph's safer. And on the flip side, at least Hodges was taking chances.
I guess so, but they're playing the Dolphins. I feel like Juju can come through here.
Yeah, you would think. If he can't this week, oh, God, sorry.
So Juju, number 21. I actually have Kenny Stills at number 22. It's a great matchup up against Oakland. And it's a situation where no Will Fuller. They're going to be taking shots downfield. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing with Kenny Stills is he's very much like Will Fuller, a little bit of a better all-around wide receiver. And Kiki QT is, you remember I said this a few weeks ago, QT when Stills was out, makes this offense better balanced, more balanced, and that's why Will Fuller hit down that game and really had a better opportunity downfield because you bring some of that coverage down to over the middle of the field, the short routes. QT is still going to be out there because Kenny Stills is just replacing Will Fuller. So I like it too. Kenny Stills might be just a spit high for me, but I'm not going to complain about it that much against Oakland. Kenny Stills, we know what the floor is. I mean, he could come out of this game with 2 catches for 17 yards.
And with like 3 hamstring injuries, because that's right up. That's his MO. This is a great
the first quarter.
Yeah. So Stills, Fitzgerald, Sutton, Moore, Odell, Crowder, Sanders, D.D. Westbrook, Robert Woods. What do we do with Sanders?
Here's one to flip back at you. Hold
Okay.
on. I'm gonna turn one back at you.
Flip
At what point
to me. I'm ready. Let's go.
at what point do we stop ranking Larry Fitzgerald so high?
I think this is a decent spot for him, especially if Christian Kirk returns, because Kirk will end up playing on the outside. This is a game where a lot of it has really been affected by how well the Cardinals have been running the ball and how they've been up in these games, that this does not seem like a situation where they're going to be up in the game against the Saints, that with Lattimore presumably on Christian Kirk for a lot of the time, Larry Fitzgerald in the slot against the Saints actually projects to be in a really good spot here. I see what you're saying, but I think this matchup in particular is really good.
There's only one Ben Zwyman, and he's here. He's here in the studio, Ben. It's NHL opening face-off.
Are you flexing?
You pick between the top two options
Ew.
in each position on tonight's 10-game slate.
We got a couple big-name centers who have been underperforming.
Ooh,
Now,
that's
Sean,
not
yeah, let me tell you about them. Sean Monahan of the Flames and Tyler Seguin of the Stars. Now, both are averaging right around 9 fantasy points per game, okay? Follow me here.
Not great.
Monahan, a little pricey at $7,500. Seguin, a little $6,800. Hello down there. You see a breakout from either of these guys tonight, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be anyone, it's probably going to be Sean Monahan. He has the best matchup at home against the Panthers. But let's talk about the Stars. They've been awful on offense again. I kind of thought they would go into this season and be a lot better, but they haven't. Jim Montgomery, their coach, can't really figure out the lines. They have a bad matchup at home against the Ducks. The Ducks have been pretty good defensively, and John Gibson is one of the best goaltenders in the league. But yeah, the Stars rank dead last in goals. They're second to last in shots on goal, so they're not really getting much of a ceiling guy.
Hold on. Where's your mic?
Whoa.
Where is it?
Your
Show
mic's
me your
not
mic.
on.
Is this your mic in your pocket here?
Should be on.
Oh, you put it on mute, you silly goose. Here you
All right,
go.
let's just
Jesus.
unmute him. All right, start over,
I didn't
Ben.
put anything on mute.
Well, it
Go
certainly
ahead
looked
and-
like it was on mute,
Okay,
Mary.
sit down, Emerson.
Okay.
Anyway.
Go ahead, Ben. Start over.
All right, well,
Action.
I was pretty much talking about how Tyler Seguin isn't a great play, so I'll skip that. We'll go to Monahan. The Flames have a good matchup at home against the Panthers. That game should be high pace. I really like that as a game stack because the Panthers guys are sort of priced down, and Monahan's priced up with Johnny Gaudreau and Elias Lindholm on that first line. So yeah, if you're going to stack that game, that's not a bad place to look.
All right, on the wing, we're going from underperforming to consistent. All right, Alex Ovechkin and Leon Draisaitl are the two most expensive options at wing, but I mean, they've earned it. Ovechkin at 8,100 has scored at least 17 fantasy points in each game, and Draisaitl at 7,900 has put up at least 19 fantasy points in each contest. So the question is, Ben, who's the better play tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Ovechkin's the better play on most nights. I'm not crazy about both of these guys. They're very expensive, especially if you want to stack the Capitals. The Oilers actually been pretty good defensively, so trying to fit the Capitals into any lineup with that first line and John Carlson is going to be very tough. I actually like a lot of other options at wing tonight. Geoff Skinner is a guy I'll touch on a little bit later. Evander Kane, a guy I like a lot. He's a high-volume shooter. Hab Shark should be high pace, should be a lot of goals in that game. And Cam Atkinson, he's down to 5,900. He's another guy, high-volume shooter, pretty good matchup against the Hurricanes. Again, if I had to choose between Draisaitl and Ovechkin, it would probably go Ovechkin because he's hit that 5+ shots on goal bonus often this season. But yeah, I mean, I think on a 10-game slate, you can pretty much pay down at this position and be set.
We have not one, but two dudes on the blue line who have hit double-digit fantasy points over the last 3 games, and you can snag him for under $6K. Seems like a pretty good deal. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
San Jose's Erik Carlsson, okay, 5,700. Montreal's Shea Weber comes in, 5,300. You like either of those guys to keep returning value, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I like both of those guys, so we'll talk about them. Erik Carlsson has at least 9 fantasy points in his past 4 games, and for some reason his price hasn't really been adjusted. He's going to skate in the power play, and the Habs penalty kills not been very great this season. Carlson's a guy who's going to skate a ton of minutes. I think he's averaging around 24, 25 minutes per game. A guy who's going to get a lot of shots, going to get a lot of blocks, going to have a chance at points. He's a great tournament play and cash play because, like I mentioned, he's been averaging a pretty decent amount of fantasy points over his last couple. So yeah, you can pretty much roll him out in any format. And the Habs are one of the highest implied goal totals on the slate. So Shea Weber, getting him at 5,300 is a pretty good discount. I consider him more of a tournament play, though.
All right, talk to me about goalies. Who's a high-priced option you like and a value play between the pipes tonight?
I like Jordan Binnington of the St. Louis Blues, the defending champions, a lot at home against the Kings. The Kings have a low implied total, but they pepper the goalies with a lot of shots. They're averaging the most shots on goal per game this season at 38. So normally Binnington doesn't see a ton of shots because the Blues play pretty well defensively and they mostly keep it in their offensive zone. But yeah, tonight we may be able to see Binnington get more shots, get more saves, chance at that 35-plus save bonus. The Kings have been shut out twice this season. As far as value goalies, though, there are a lot of good options. Darcy Kemper and John Gibson are two guys I've been going to a lot so far this season. For some reason, Gibson's always underpriced. The Ducks aren't a great team, but Gibson's a great goalie. He's going to see a lot of shots. He has a chance to steal a game tonight. And I mentioned before, they're playing the Stars. The Stars just aren't scoring. So really, Gibson at 7,200 is a great play. Darcy Kemper, the Coyotes have been playing great. They're playing the Islanders on the road. The Islanders are another team. Really doesn't scare you too much offensively, and Kemper's been playing out of his mind. So I like both of those value options in net.
Who's your lock of the night, though, Ben? This would also be known as the slate-approved pick.
Yes, I'm very familiar with those. So I'm going to go with Geoff Skinner. The Sabres are playing the Rangers on the road. This game should be, again, high-paced. The Rangers have been awful defensively. Skinner's a guy who's going to get a lot of shots on goal, so he's got a chance at that bonus. His upside is a hat trick. He's scored in his past 2 games. If you want to pair him with Jack Eichel, they're not skating on the same line, but they're on the first power play together, and those are the 2 guys on the Sabres that are going to have the most pop. So I like pairing them together. Sort of not as much correlation there, but yeah, I like pairing those guys tonight, and I think Skinner's the guy you got to lock in at 7,000.
Alrighty, thanks, Ben. We love having you on as always.
Yes, we do, especially when your mic's on.
Okay, yeah, always. We'll be right back with a different Ben, though, for a college football preview right after Left Hand's Leverage.
We are almost at the midpoint of the NFL season. This is the Week 8 edition of Levitan's Leverage. Adam Kaufman and the man of the hour, Adam Levitan. Leonard Fournette and John Brown nearly touched 20 points for you last week, Levy. This week we're going to start with a different Brown. AJ, Titans receiver. Bucks have allowed the second most fantasy points to wideouts this year. He's just 4,100 at home. Is this a must-play now that he's got Ryan Tannehill looking at him?
Yeah, I don't think must-play because Ryan Tannehill isn't going to play nearly as well as he played last week. Every week going forward, and also A.J. Brown remains a rotational player. But yeah, you can just see it if you watch. I mean, A.J. Brown is a baller. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, and this Bucs team tries so hard to stop the run, and I think they will be successful stopping the run. The problem is everybody just throws on them.
Give you another receiver here, Kenny Stills. He's home for the Texans, only 4,700 against the Raiders, that horrid pass defense too. Are you basically just thinking he can capitalize on the Will Fuller injury?
Yeah, I mean, Will Fuller being out is going to lock Kenny Stills into an every down role opposite DeAndre Hopkins. And I think Kenny Stills has been a really good player for a long time, just has not had the right opportunity, the right quarterback, the right situation. I think that Sunday with Deshaun Watson against the Raiders defense, which is reasonably good against the run and really bad against the pass, just traded away Gary Conley also. This is the spot for Kenny Stills to really capitalize and let people know how good he is.
Chris Carson is $7,000 for Seattle in Atlanta. Seahawks lead back struggled last week after 3 games in which he averaged 24 fantasy points. So why are you confident in the bounce back here?
Yeah, I think that with Matt Ryan's injury, and even if Matt Ryan ends up playing, I think you could project him to be a little bit less effective than normal. It's just a spot where you could see Seattle get a nice lead and really ride Chris Carson hard. And they've been willing to do that in neutral game scripts and even in some game scripts where they're behind. But when they're ahead, I mean, you can project Chris Carson for 25 touches easily, and you can get him up to 30 in some spots. And that's just crazy for only $7K against a really inefficient defense like the Falcons. So, yeah, I think it's a really good spot to get back on Chris Carson after he disappointed a lot of people last week.
You guys got to ride these videos hard because Levy's killing it every single week. Thank you, man.
All right, good luck.
What? All right, well, as we promised, Ben Rasa of Awesemo.com, our little adorable college football guru, he's here for a little college football preview highlighting some of this weekend's top games.
Yeah, so Oregon is a big 14.5-point favorite over Washington State. I mean, Ben, the question is, can they cover that spread?
Yeah.
I think they can. I'm sticking with my Ducks. What a game last week.
Yeah, Quack Attack is back, Jack.
Quack Attack is back. That's what I'm talking about. Home back in Eugene, where they thrive, much easier than having to go to Seattle like last week. Take on Washington. This is Washington State, who the defense is atrocious. We know we can move the ball, but I just have a feeling that Oregon hangs 50+ on them here, and I think with that kind of point output, I'll lay the 14.5.
Well, Wisconsin getting upset last week. They are still upset over getting upset, and now they're going to face Ohio State as a 14-point underdog. Can they rebound against the Buckeyes? I mean, good grief, man. Ohio State looks really good.
Dangerously good.
Yeah.
I mean, Illinois, that was one of the bigger upsets I've seen in a long time. It's a brutal spot. Going to Columbus, you know they should be motivated and angry, but at the same time, Ohio State's defense is phenomenal. Justin Fields is phenomenal. And Wisconsin, we know they can run the ball with Taylor, but other than that, if they fall behind, and I expect they do, I have a feeling it's going to be another bad week for them.
All right, which game has the potential to be the biggest upset this week in college football?
So I'm going to stick in the Big Ten. I'm going to go to Michigan State, actually. And we saw Penn State last week, emotional game at home, got out to a huge lead and then almost blew it against Michigan. Now they go to East Lansing, and Michigan State's not great this year, but at the same time, still a normal Spartan defense, definitely aggressive, and they have a decent quarterback. So I have a feeling, the spread sits at 6.5, money lines around plus 200. I'm going to lean with the Spartans. I think they knock off Penn State here from the ranks of the unbeaten.
Which game can end up the most lopsided in college football this Saturday? This is the question I love to ask you every
I love
week
that one
because
too.
I love lopsided affairs.
Love beatdowns. Well, Clemson, 5-touchdown favorite over Boston College this week. They've been sloppy. They've been bored, disinterested. I don't know what's with them, but I have a feeling this might be a get-right spot for Trevor Lawrence and for the team as a whole. BC is just awful. I have a feeling Clemson actually covers the spread. I wouldn't be stunned to see them win by 40 or 50 points.
Ben, I can tell you don't know that I went to Boston College, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry
okay,
about
Ben.
that.
I can confirm that we did get beaten pretty handily by Clemson.
Yeah, I was at
every
that
time.
game last year.
Yeah.
Just tailgating with Reed. Reed T.
Yeah,
Fowler was with me
yeah.
as well.
It
And
was-
Tom Glennon, one of
It
our
was
producers.
great, yeah. So thank you so much, Ben. We really
Ben,
appreciate
I went to
it.
UCF homecoming last weekend too. It was pretty good. We put a pretty
Sounds
good.
like a good time. I'm not going to lie.
It was fantastic. My first time back on campus in like 12 years.
Emerson took it too far, as he always does. So we appreciate the time, Ben,
Thanks,
as
Ben.
always. Talking NBA betting in a couple of minutes after Adam Kaufman catches up with Nick Eatman about all things Cowboys during Dallas's bye week.
Well, Cowboys won 3, and then they lost 3, and then, of course, they blew out the Eagles to head into their bye week in a good mood and also, more importantly, first in the NFC East, where they just so happen to be perfect as well. Nick Eatman knows all about it, covers the boys for DallasCowboys.com. I'm Adam Kaufman. Nick, did you learn anything from this last win over Philadelphia that maybe you hadn't necessarily believed after the first 6 games?
Yeah, I mean, the roller coaster goes up and down. It goes up and down. It goes back up again. We're ready for some loops and all that. I mean, that's what this season, it looks like it's going to be. And I think what we learned more than anything is that, this football team is healthy. They can be really good. And they were complete on Sunday night. And they put together a game that it's the blueprint of how all teams want to play. You want to get a good lead. You want your defense to get turnovers. You want to cash in on those turnovers. You want to be able to set NFL records with 63-yard field goals. I mean, and then you want your offense to be balanced on run and pass. I mean, it was just a really good performance, a great performance all the way around.
What were you thinking when you see someone line up for a 63-yard field goal, by the way?
With him, like with Brett Maher, it's unbelievable because with 63-yarders, you're like, yeah, he'll make that. He can get there. It's the extra point to tie the game that you've got no fingernails with because it's like, oh, he can't. Is he going to make this? That's just kind of the way he is. But he really does. He has confidence to go out and make everything. And I think fantasy needs to start changing some of their scoring. I know it's like 5 points or so for 50-yarders. I mean, what about 60?
Amen, man.
He's hit 3 now, the only player in NFL history to have more than 3 60-yarders.
Just need him to be a touch more mainstream, I guess, and maybe we can make that happen. I'm going to talk to the people that make the rules, get in the back door, all the programmers, see what they have to say. Like you said, though, Cowboys, they clearly have a good team, and they have one of the best offenses in the NFL, top 5 in points scored right now. That said, are there any areas on that unit that you're concerned about?
Well, that's hard. That's a good question because when they've been healthy, you could say that, are they going to stay healthy? But, they haven't been able to, really, I think red zone would be something that they had problems with last year. They had some issues with this year. And so that's the one where they've got to be consistent there when they get down there. Are they going to be able to really run the football and punch it in? At times they've been good, at times they haven't. And you don't want those times when you're not good to be also the games Brett Maher struggles as well, because you hate to get down in there at the 10, 12-yard line and then miss a field goal, which has happened this year. So I still think red zone efficiency is going to be the thing that could really kind of plague this team later on in the season.
There is one problem through 7 games. Maybe it's not a problem. It depends how you look at it, I guess. Dallas is just 1-2 on the road, but those losses were a combined 4 points. So is it more of a bad luck thing than a focal point in the second half? How do you read it? Oh,
those 3 games that you talked about, if there was a theme there, they didn't play well early in the game. They missed opportunities early. Against the Redskins, they were able to cash in later, and their defense caught on, and they were able to kind of win that comfortably. The Jets and the Saints, it was too little too late that they tried to get anything done. And it was too little in the Saints game. So I think that's kind of the problem there, is that they didn't play well early in the game. But when you look at it too, they lost 3 road games. One to Sam Darnold, who is seeing ghosts. Teddy Bridgewater, who's playing great, but he's still going to be benched when Breeze comes back. And then I even forgot the quarterback for Case Keenum was the quarterback for the Redskins. I think they started 9 so far.
Yeah, it could have been anybody.
Was the guy that started that game. So it's not like they're getting beat by Aaron Rodgers and them on the road. They should have won those games, especially the Jets game. I never thought a game could get worse a week later, but it did when you watched them play the Patriots. You just don't know how they lost that game. And when this season's over, they're going to be, they're going to be wishing they had another win, and that's the first one that's going to pop up.
At least you're winning the most important ones for tiebreakers. Perfect in the division. That could mean something down the line.
True. There's no doubt about it. If you're going to lose a game, you'd like to lose an AFC game, but you don't want to lose to a team that you think Alabama would beat. So I don't know. That's a tough one. I'm sorry to throw shade on them, but they looked so bad the other night. And Amari Cooper, Tyron Smith, we know how good they are, but man, they were missed tremendously, because I think that the game is a 14-point, 17-point different game if those 2 guys are on the field.
Tara Lanezak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Joe Girardi is getting another shot at being a manager in the MLB once again, and no, it's not with the Mets. Sorry, Mike Francesa. After 2 seasons being an analyst for the MLB Network, the Phillies are expected to hire Joe Girardi as manager. The Phillies said goodbye to recently terminated Gabe Kapler after his 2 seasons with the club were more than disappointing. Philadelphia spent a lot of money in the offseason to bring in Bryce Harper and bolster their roster, but still failed to make the playoffs. If you have been living under a rock, Girardi managed the Marlins in 2006 and the Yankees for 10 years, famously winning a World Series title in his second season in 2009 when they beat the Phillies. Girardi is sitting in a pretty good spot now in Philadelphia. Unlike Kapler, he is a seasoned manager, having won 988 MLB games, and has vets on the team that are ready to win, since they haven't had a winning season in Philadelphia in 8 years. Hopefully, the new 55th manager of the Phillies can finally get them back into the playoff picture.
All right. It's a 3-game NBA slate. Just in case you forgot, it's also Thirsty Thursday, which is why we have DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne and RotoWire's Alex Barutha here to quench said thirst and help you decide who to roster among the top options at each position.
All right, Bucks, Rockets, both Harden and Giannis have a total of 45.5 set for their combined points, rebounds, and assists. Which one of them hits the over, Garion? Cannot hear you.
You need me to come over there and turn your mic on for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
I think they can both hit this mark. I think this is going to be a pretty up-tempo game. A lot of three-point attempts, a lot of rebounds, a lot of just tertiary stats going on in this contest. But I think Giannis is just the safer of the 2 options. I mean, you go through his game log from last season. It's pretty easy to do this with the reigning MVP. But 60 of the 72 games he played, he scored more than 20 points. 53 of the 72, he had more than 10 rebounds. 50 of the 72, he had more than 5 assists. Like, he just stuffs the stat sheet. And unlike Harden, there hasn't been this massive roster overhaul or particular roster overhaul in terms of usage rate. Like, this is basically the same Milwaukee team we saw last year. So there's no reason to think he just can't continue doing what he did all of last season.
Where are you going, Alex?
I have to agree with Gary in here. I do like Giannis. I think this line is just kind of asking, or whether you want to choose Harden or Giannis is asking, do we think Westbrook is going to affect Harden more than Brogdon leaving is going to boost Giannis? And I think Brogdon's absence is really significant for Milwaukee, and they're going to have to lean on Giannis even more if that's possible. And so, yeah, Giannis can pull down 17, 18 boards on any given night. He's going to pass the ball. Obviously, Harden's going to do all that too. But I would rather, like Gary said, take the safe pick. We're not exactly sure how this chemistry experiment is going to work out in Houston, and game one is not the time to bet on that.
All right, but Alex, we have a bonus question from that game, about that game, Russell Westbrook. Does he go over or under his projected point total of 21.5? You got to tell me.
This feels so low for Westbrook when you look at it, but then you realize he only averaged 22 points a game last year. I think a lot of people are still kind of adjusting to this new Russell Westbrook where he's a little more passive, isn't taking what feels like 30 shots a game. I'm going to go under here. The Bucks I think they had the best defense in the league last season. And like I mentioned before, the Harden and Westbrook adjustment period, not ready to quite bank on that working out yet. And Westbrook only averaged 14 points a game against the Bucks last season, so they kind of have his number a little bit. We'll see if it translates, but I would go under here.
Yeah, Gary, what do you think of that 22-point average? Because maybe he's also focused on building up a stat sheet, maintain that triple-double.
Yeah, look, I'll just be the sucker here because, like Alex said, this number just seems incredibly low for someone of Russell Westbrook's caliber. And, obviously there's the usage rate concerns, there's Westbrook's continuous efficiency concerns. And actually, when you look at Milwaukee, with what they do under Coach Bud, just allowing above the break threes, almost tempting people to take above the break threes, there is probably no one in the NBA who is more easily captivated into taking wide open threes they shouldn't take than Russell Westbrook. So it's a scary matchup. But at the same time, the Rockets, 6 preseason games, they were running over 110 possessions per 48 minutes. I just think this game's going to be so up-tempo. And again, so many shots that Russ probably just gets there through sheer attrition and volume.
To the late game on the slate, Warriors and Clippers. Steph Curry's projected point total is 30.5, while Kawhi's is 26.5. Which superstar hits the over, Garion?
I'm going to go with Kawhi. I think there's a couple reasons to like Kawhi here. First and foremost, we haven't yet seen the Warriors have to play defense, but I think there's a reasonable concern that they're not going to be a very good defensive team with their current roster construct. Draymond Green is still a perfectly capable and one of the best defenders in the NBA, but he does not have a lot of help on this particular team. So I think this is a pretty good matchup. And then, I don't want to buy too much into a single game sample, but Leonard's usage rate was up over 41% in that contest against the Lakers. And even when his minutes overlapped with Lou Williams, they played 38 possessions together. Williams is another massive usage rate player. Kawhi's usage rate only went from 41% to 39%. So it's pretty clear how this offense in Los Angeles is going to run with Paul George on the sideline. So I think 26.5 is just pretty low for a guy of Kawhi Leonard's caliber.
Alex, Kawhi or Steph for you?
I like Kawhi here. I think Steph will average at least 30 points a game this season, but against the Clippers is not the place I would want to take that over. So they just have so many good defenders that they can throw at Steph. They have Beverly, they have Kawhi himself. Mo Harkless did a really good job the other night against the Lakers. I just think, even though Draymond will probably be against Kawhi, since the finals last season, or I guess since the entire playoffs, we've seen Kawhi just be able to pull up from 16, 17 feet and just continuously hit jumpers over people. And it almost doesn't matter who's on him. So I think the Clippers are going to do everything they can to slow Steph Curry down specifically. While I think the Clippers have so many options on offense, that's going to be hard for the Warriors to do anything about it. I'm going to take Kawhi over 26.5 here.
Guys, I feel like we're sleeping here on the Pistons and Hawks, and we should not. So, Alex, what is more likely to happen? Trae Young hitting the over on his 22.5-point projection, or Andre Drummond pulling down over 16.5 rebounds?
This is a tough call because the Pistons just played yesterday. I mean, they're on tired legs, and we know, Trae Young's quickness is incredible. He can shoot from 30 feet. He'll take anybody to the rim. But I still like Drummond here. I think without Blake Griffin, so many rebounds are just up for grabs. And the Pistons are so just desperate for offense that they're going to need Drummond to rebound offensively and defensively to even stay in this game remotely. So I'm just going to bank on Drummond grabbing 18, 19, 20 boards here against the Hawks front court that really isn't that tough.
Gary, you with Alex here? Is he just going to be a beast feasting on boards?
Yeah, and we had a similar thought process to maybe stay away from this at first, because 41 minutes from Andre Drummond last night is not something you can just necessarily ignore. Because when Andre Drummond has a bad night, and they get bad fast. And he's going to need to be on the court a long time to get to this number. But the Hawks were sort of a magic elixir for just guys who could rebound last season, because they just take so many shots. No team in the Eastern Conference averaged more field goal attempts per game than the Hawks last season. And the best part is they're not very good at shooting. So a lot of those miss and create rebound attempts. So I just think we're looking at a situation where if Drummond can just find his way to 30-plus minutes, he's going to hit this mark in rebounds.
Okay.
All right, Slate Approved Pick Time. Who's your DFS lock on this 3-game slate, Garion?
I'm going to go with Kawhi. Again, if we think he's going to go over 27 points, he's being priced as the 4th highest player on this slate. I think anytime you can get him around 9,000, it's a pretty good value.
Alex, who are you going with?
I'm going Drummond here. I don't think Atlanta can keep him off the boards, and I think he's underpriced relative to the situation without Blake Griffin.
All right, guys. Thank you. Good seeing both of you. We're wrapping up the show with Thursday Night Football Showdown picks right after a preview of this weekend's top college football games.
Hello, I'm Brendan Glasheen here with DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow. We are getting you ready for College Football Saturday presented by Wrangler. Julian, we've got 9 games to choose from in this contest. We're going to start with the matchup in the Big 12. 2 prolific offenses, Oklahoma State, number 23, Iowa State. How do the Cyclones avoid an upset in what could be a very high-scoring affair?
Yeah, it would have been really nice if Oklahoma State could have gotten that win last week and have a little bit more momentum coming into this one. They were kind of a letdown in that game. And then you look at Iowa State, the Cyclones coming off back-to-back road victories. That's tough to do in this league. So I just think that they're the better team. They're the more proven team. And while Oklahoma State will be hungry to bounce back from their loss, Iowa State's just too good.
All right, over in the Big Ten, number 13, Wisconsin is coming off that shocking loss to Illinois. Now the Badgers have to take on an undefeated and number 3 Ohio State team. Can they rebound from that tough L with a great performance on the road against the Buckeyes?
I think they can rebound with a good performance. If anything's going to lock Wisconsin in, it's an embarrassing loss like that. The biggest upset of the college football season so far. So the worry, though, is if Wisconsin can play that bad against a team like Illinois, then maybe they aren't that good. So I do think that Wisconsin is going to give Ohio State their best shot, but Ohio State might be the best team in the nation. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Ohio State keeps rolling.
All right, and finally, we move to the SEC for the Tiger Bowl. Number 9, Auburn, and number 2, LSU. Auburn is trying to snap a 2-game losing streak to the number 2 LSU Tigers. What's it going to take for them to come out of Baton Rouge with a win?
It's going to take a pretty perfect game because LSU has been near perfect so far this season, and it's because that passing game. Joe Burrow, probably the Heisman favorite at this point. He's got great guys to throw the ball to, and I just don't see this Auburn defense, although good, stopping the LSU Tigers offense. So I think that LSU, a team that's going to make a lot of noise in the college football playoff, and get the win here.
He is DK Live's Julian Edlow, DraftKings contributor. I am Brendan Glasheen. That is a look at some of Saturday's top college football matchups presented by Wrangler.
Hey, it's that time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Taryn Azak. Remember the other day when I said we might be seeing Drew Brees return to the field sooner rather than later? Well, it really is looking like that's the case now. When asked if he will be under center Sunday, Breeze said, "That's the plan, we'll see." It's been 5 weeks since having surgery on the thumb of his throwing hand, and he has been a limited participant at practice. He has showed positive signs while throwing and made it pretty clear when asked if there is any greater risk of re-injury now than after the Week 9 bye that it's not a factor in the decision. Before Breeze's injury, the future Hall of Famer was averaging 12.7 fantasy points per game. These 6-1 Saints have been impressive during Breeze's absence with Teddy Bridgewater, keeping them afloat, going 5-0 and averaging 16 fantasy points per game. Arizona has been playing great football lately, racking up 3 wins with Kyler Murray at the helm, so this won't be an easy game for New Orleans. Hopefully, Breeze will pick up right where he left off and won't be rusty. He has proved to the coaches he is ready to play, so fantasy owners should keep a close eye on the inactive list on Sunday, as the Saints have not made anything official about their leader just yet.
Okay, before we get into football, Reed, you have a big announcement for golf.
Yeah, Zozo Championship has been delayed round 2 due to inclement weather. So all the Tiger Woods lovers out there, you guys have to wait to watch him. He's tied with Gary Woodland. So I know Matt Jones and Jeff Ulrich, sorry Pierce, you're not a golf guy, but I know those guys care about that. So yeah,
dude, that wasn't the galleries,
amazing.
By the way. If you've seen the pictures and videos, like holy smokes, they really like that guy over there.
Well, the Olympics is going to be in Japan 2020. Golf.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's going to be there.
I cannot wait for that. Okay, but this is the final block of the program. This is when you just saw their faces, but I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce our NFL panel anyway. 4 gentlemen on your screen. They're all DraftKings contributors. 3 of them really like golf. That would be Jeff Ulrich, Reed Ballard, Matt Jones. And there's Pierce Dietrich. If you have any questions about NASCAR, he is the guy you want to talk to.
But right now we're talking football.
Or umpire stats in
need
baseball.
those showdown picks for tonight's Redskins-Vikings game. Starting with your pick for captain, Reed, who are you going with?
Yeah, I like Kirk Cousins. We talked about him quite a bit in that first segment. When you have this team that has one of the higher implied team totals of the week, you want that quarterback one. We talked about what he's going to be able to do against this Washington defense. I do think Dalvin Cook is still someone that you're going to have to play, but I don't mind going to Kirk Cousins, who's thrown over 300 yards over his last 3 games. And so I still think even some of those skill players that we'll get to in a little bit are in play for this matchup. So give me Kirk Cousins, my captain.
Matt, who are you going to take as your captain?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do the cop-out answer and say Dalvin Cook. Like, I know I called for a fade on his carries total, but he's one of the most efficient runners in the league. He over at RotoViz, we have a stat called Fantasy Points Over Expectation, and he is second in that. And he has 40% of the team's opportunities so far this year. So he's getting a ton of touches where it counts, and even if he doesn't hit that 18.5 carry total, I think he's still going to have an awesome game. So I will go
he is so expensive in that captain spot. Wow.
Thank you, Emerson. Pierce, who are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. I know he's really expensive, but if you're looking for a breakout player, he is it by definition. Number 1 in breakout runs, number 1 in yards created, number 1 in goal line carries, number 5 in red zone touches, which will probably go up with Thielen being out. If you're looking for touchdowns and big plays from your captain spot, you don't even have to think twice. You just take Dalvin Cook.
All right, Dalvin Cook. Jeff, who are you going with?
Chalky Dalvin Cook and how the Minnesota Vikings are going to be tonight. Don't play the Vikings in the captain spot. Play Terry McLaurin, T-Mac, F1, Scurry Turry. Look, he's going up against Xavier Rhodes, and if you think Xavier Rhodes is still a good cornerback, well, he's really not. 33 out of 36 completions against them this year, 125 passer rating he's giving up. This is a matchup Terry McLaurin can absolutely dominate. I won't be shocked if he goes for a couple long touchdowns here. I really like him as a captain tonight, especially in the big GPPs where, like I said, everyone's playing the Vikings.
I like Olabisi Johnson.
Okay.
That's who I'm going with.
Great.
Who would you like to stack with your captain there, Matt? Your really expensive captain.
Yeah, I'll go a little bit somewhat on the cheaper side to make it work and go with the correlation play with the Vikings defense. So far they've had multiple sacks in every game, except for one, and a couple of 4-sack games thrown in there. And Washington's offensive, well, everything about Washington is pretty awful, but their O-line is 20th in adjusted stack rate allowed per Football Outsiders. And the Vikings have also had at least one pick in 5 of 7 games. So definitely an opportunistic defense that I think could be pretty good this tonight.
Pierce, you got to go with someone cheap as well, right?
Well, he's kind of affordable. Olabisi Johnson.
Yes.
Half of his routes have come out of the slot, and slot receivers have done some damage to the Redskins this year. Julian Edelman had a good game. Sterling Shepard had a good game. Now, a bit of the worry is that with Thielen out, he may not be in the slot as much. But if that's the case, he's likely going to face off against Josh Norman, speaking of cornerbacks who aren't good anymore. And he's also not very healthy. So Johnson's got a great matchup. I know a lot of people are going to play him, but I don't know if you really need to overthink that too much.
All right. That would leave you, Geoff.
Again, if you're playing Terry McLaurin, you obviously have to play Case Keenum. And look, I know Case Keenum has been brutal in spots, but you also have to consider some of the teams he's gone against. I mean, San Francisco in a monsoon isn't exactly a breakout spot. This is, though. I mean, the Vikings have given up the 5th most passing touchdowns in the league. I mentioned they've given up consecutive 300-yard passing games. Secondary is not that great. They don't have the most dominant pass rush in the world. It's a revenge game. So obviously you have to play Case Keenum anyways, even if you don't believe in the stats. So I definitely like pairing him with Terry McLaurin tonight.
Can't forget about you, Reed.
Yeah, I want to actually go Adrian Peterson. I think that's the contrarian stack here. Yeah. And look, he looked like he broke his ankle last week. And there's something about this guy that he's not human. This guy is not human. He is out of this world in terms of, just his physique. I know he's someone that you look up to, Emerson, when you're lifting weights. But look at Adrian, look what he's going to be able to do. Talk about revenge game. I mean, both of these teams have a lot of players who were on the opposing teams. And Chris Thompson, again, is hurt for the upteenth time, the upteenth season. And I don't think Wendell Smallwood is going to get a lot of these carries, a lot of the touches. And look what he did last week, too, when Case Keenum tried to audible. He turned around, or Adrian Peterson went up to him and said, "Do not audible, give me the ball." That's what's going to happen. I could see 18 to 20 touches for Adrian Peterson, especially to what Geoff was saying. In these large GPPs, no one is going to be playing AP. I really like him in this stack.
All right, where can we find some value, though, here? People are going to have to be paying up in the captain spot and stuff like that.
That's very important.
Pierce, talk to me about value.
I like Irv Smith. When Thielen went down last week, Smith got a lot of playing time, and he wasn't just out there blocking. 19 routes run. They were running a lot of double tight end sets, and again, they weren't blocking. A lot of people are going to play Olabisi Johnson, and then maybe they'll go to Kyle Rudolph, and Irv Smith's not going to have the ownership, despite him running a lot of plays last week and running routes and catching 4 passes for 60 yards. I like Irv.
All right, where are we going on this one, Geoff? Talk to me about value.
Yeah, I don't mind that call by Pierce on Irv Smith Jr. I do like that, but I'm going to go with Alex Madison. Is just, again, we're talking about big field GPP strategies. Madison's getting like in the realm of 8 to 12 carries a game. And again, it's kind of coming down to just you're hoping that he gets in the end zone or he just gets a few more extra carries here. But it's definitely the type of game where it could happen. Going up against a bad rush defense, if he gets going for a couple carries, it could happen. Obviously, there's a ton of risk here, and it's more of like if you're going to fade Dalvin Cook play, you can think about Madison as a value. But I think against this Redskins rush defense, and again, Vikings at home as like 14-point favorites, whatever they're up to now, it's a good spot to deploy this strategy with Madison.
Read value where?
Yeah, I really like Irv Smith as well. When you just look at what they did last week, both of the tight ends and him and Rudolph, 18% target share. And if you look at Washington and just how this defense is run, how this defense is played, they get beat most by running backs and tight ends. Not as much by receivers. You're not going to fade Stephon Diggs. But when you look at value, Irv Smith, and you look at the Washington defense, 25% of their targets, or 23 to 25% of their targets against, comes from that tight end position. So when you talk about trying to find value, if you want to stack all the Vikings, I think he's a prime spot. And even CJ Ham as well. He's one of the min-price guys who are really down there. If this game becomes a blowout and we don't think that Dalvin Cook gets those touches, when you look at this backfield with Madison and Ham, I think Ham might get some of those touches in terms of just trying to keep him fresh. We know what Dalvin Cook, when he has those injuries, he's been susceptible over the past couple of years. They're going to potentially want CJ Ham to get those reps. If he gets one of these end zone or red zone touches, I think he could bring back value. So Irv Smith number 1, CJ Ham number 2.
Matt, you got someone expensive in your captain spot, so where are you finding value?
I'm going with Dan Bailey. I mean, I wish there was some sort of revenge narrative here that I could go along with. Maybe because he was a Cowboy and he's going against the rest. I don't know. But he's had 2 double-digit performances in the last few weeks, and it's they're implied for almost 30 points. They're going to be scoring. Cousins can always find a way to stall out a drive here and there. So maybe a couple of field goals for Bailey at 4K.
Geoff, who are you totally fading?
Totally.
I'm going to fade your guy, Emerson, or Matthew, or I don't know what your name is anymore.
Wow.
I'm going to fade Olabisi Johnson. I just feel like most people are just going to try and pay up for him because he played so many snaps last week. But I really feel like Irv Smith, Laquan Treadwell, I mean, they're cheaper. They have just as much chance, in my opinion, as being the guy here as sort of the secondary to Steph Diggs. And also, I'm not really sure how much volume there's going to be for these other secondary players outside of Steph Diggs. So I'd rather just play the cheaper players. For me, I think Johnson, again, he's expensive. I assume he's going to be a little bit chalky here. So I'd rather just pay down for these cheaper options in the Vikings pass game.
Oh, man. Okay, Reed.
Yeah, I'm actually going to give an argument to fading Dalvin Cook. Look, you see the whole narrative is there for him to do well. I think he does, but the amount of ownership that you're going to have to eat there and the chalky you're going to have to eat, Geoff mentioned it when Pierce gave his call there. It's a ton, and that price tag, and especially in this game, I think there's different places to go. They have one of the highest implied team totals, again, like I said, on the week, and so fading that price and that ownership, I don't think is a bad idea. We talked about some of the guys, so Dalvin Cook not going to be in my showdown lineup.
You're a smart man. Matt, what about you? How smart are you? Who are you fading?
I mean, it really depends on who you ask, but I think I'm probably going to be fading Terry tonight. I don't know if 9,200 is a fair price for his ceiling just because of the offense. Like, look, obviously he's been dynamic in spots, but last week he had 2 targets and went for 11 yards. So I think that there's a real chance that Washington just doesn't really get into a groove, and if he doesn't break off a couple of long plays at 9,200, you're completely dead in the water. So I will be fading F1.
Reed, I would like you to know Ben Zwyman has messaged me and thinks you're an idiot for not playing Dalvin Cook.
Well, I'm also not an idiot for unmuting my mic, so at least you can hear what I'm saying, Ben. Rookie mistake, Zwyman. Rookie mistake. Ben's been on some sort of attitude tour
something's going
today.
on. Something is 100% going on with him.
NHL's back. It really riles up
true.
Ben.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on,
it does. Really gets like
come
the
on.
hair standing on the back of his neck.
Okay.
Pierce, who are you fading tonight?
Adrian Peterson. That play's just way too cute. It's facing a good run defense. The script can easily go against him. They're 17-point underdogs. They're going to be playing from behind. Wendell Smallwood is going to catch passes out of the backfield. They're not going to give him 20 carries when they're 17-point underdogs on the road.
Yeah, I can't believe we got to this point and didn't mention Wendell Smallwood yet, because I don't know how none of us brought him up in the value section, but I could see Wendell Smallwood playing a ton tonight for sure too. So.
Reed, would you like to
I said that I don't think that they're going to play Wendell Smallwood that much, even though Chris Thompson is out. But again, because you're in Aruba, your connection must be bad. You can't hear me.
We still have no
Is that
idea
where you're
Jeff
at?
is.
No, I think he's in Florida.
Where are you?
We have no idea where he is.
He's not going to tell
Jeff,
us.
where are you?
I'll reveal on Saturday where I am. Okay.
Saturday?
Wow.
Who are you
Okay.
going to reveal to Saturday?
Check at the Fantasy Grind Twitter.
Oh, I love that. Teasing the Twitter reveal.
Guys,
Nice.
we do have like another minute to go. We have our loyal viewer here, Dylan Schmittler on Facebook, who offered to help you put your furniture together, asking, would I be crazy to fade Diggs against Washington? Reed?
Yeah, I think so. And Dylan always asks these questions, and he always starts them off with, "Are you crazy?"
Fade Diggs, and you said fade Cook though.
No, I like Diggs in this spot, but in terms of the ownership, I say there's a good chance that because of that you could fade him. I mean, you don't have to. That's just going to be my strategy.
Okay. Does anyone disagree with Reed?
I actually agree with Reed in this spot. I would rather fade Cook than Diggs, mainly just because of the ownership and just the absolute knockout potential of Steph Diggs in a number one role. That's just my opinion. I kind of agree with it.
All right, so that's a show. So what did we learn? Saturday, we got to look at Geoff's Twitter feed, and he's going to reveal where he is.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, he's still in Canada.
I gave a
He's just in a different room in his house.
Yeah. That could be it. That could be it. Throw us all for a loop.
In the guest bedroom. Wow, Geoff, that's That's crazy.
Wherever you are, man, we
wild.
missed the whiteboard. So
Yeah.
He's like at his neighbor's house.
We'll be sure to,
On the East Coast, there's sun shining.
Oh,
He's
wow, good observation there.
All right,
Inspector
guys, we got to
Gadget.
wrap this thing. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. He will.